Hello there, Nick Vail here, as always, helping you live your best financial life. In this video, I'll share with you some of the highlights of Biden's tax plan. Now this video is part 2 because I thought it would just be best to break this up. Now, it's important to mention again that many of these items are tentative and more will become clear after the Georgia Senate runoffs. Let's look at a few of the highlights that may impact your financial picture. The first highlight I'll mention is applicable to many of you watching. Now, many families benefit from the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit. This credit is meant to give relief to families that need to pay for the ever-increasing cost of childcare. Now, currently, parents can claim a $2,000 tax credit for each child aged 16 or younger, and there's no limit to how many kids you can claim on a return as long as they qualify. Now, the credit begins to disappear as income rises above $400,000 for joint filers and above $200,000 for single filers. Under the Biden plan, the child tax credit would increase to $3,000 per child for kids ages 6 to 17 years of age, and to $3,600 for children under the age of 6. So the amount of the credit would go up, as would the age limit from 16 to 17 years of age. It should be noted that these figures are supposedly going to be temporary. After 2021, they could revert back to current levels, or they'll get readjusted at some point down the road. Another big item in the Biden tax plan is the rise in long-term capital gains rates. So currently, the top long-term capital gains rate is 20%, with some high-income taxpayers owing an additional 3.8% surtax on top of that. So effectively 23.8. Under Biden's plan, that number jumps way up on those who have income over $1 million. Your long-term capital gains rate could get up to 39.6%. Now, most families aren't making over $1 million a year and won't be affected very much. But if you do make $1 million plus, this is a significant increase and should impact your investment strategy. Now, the next item in the proposal is pretty huge. Biden's plan includes eliminating the step-up in basis of inherited at death assets. This has immense ramifications on the plans of those who want to leave money to heirs, or if you're expecting an inheritance in the future. Let me give you an example. Okay, let's say that currently grandma has $1 million non-retirement account, of which $500,000 of it is gains. If grandma passes away and leaves the account to you, currently you don't owe tax on it. You get to reset the cost basis as the market value on the day of grandma's death. So instead of paying taxes on the $500,000 worth of gains, you get that step up and you renew your cost basis at current values. Now, under Biden's plan, step up of basis would be eliminated. So in our previous example, those gains in the account would be taxable to you as the heir. This creates some challenges, okay? One, you may have to pay an enormous tax bill on inherited assets, which effectively decreases the value of your inheritance. The other issue that I see is that there will be ripple effects on the rest of your taxes for that year. You know, your income being exponentially higher in one year can impact your eligibility for some of those tax credits or deductions that you may be used to. Also, record keeping is often a struggle on some of these assets. You know, if grandma held that account for a number of years, it's sometimes hard to get the right information on cost basis, so it could be a little bit messy. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how this idea evolves and how it can really be implemented. The last item that I'll cover is related to estate planning. Currently, there's just over an $11.5 million estate tax exemption. So this means that if you left $11.5 million to an heir, you know, there's a chance that amount would actually be sheltered from taxes. Now, this is per person, so a married couple could double that amount. Biden would like to cut that number in half, which was actually scheduled to happen in 2026 anyway. The date would just be moved up. Now, most families never approach that threshold anyway, but for those that are ultra wealthy, This is a big deal and would drastically impact your financial planning. So that does it for me on Biden's tax plan. I hope that you found this video helpful. Many of these items are going to go through a few different iterations, but it's important to know the basics and to keep your eye on how this tax plan will evolve. I should always mention that you should talk these items over with your accountant. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.